kind of the things we used to do back at the family farm. My eldest brother still runs it, and you know, who wouldn't enjoy playing on big boys' toys like these? So I spent all my spare time, and some of the time I should have been at school, working on the farm. I didn't actually, because it was a turkey farm. I don't ever remember going to school in December. It was sort of one of the things that wasn't allowed. I did my A-levels, and then no college or university, went straight into work in the farm. I worked on the family farm for 10 years, in which I did pretty well all the jobs there was to do. At that time it was run by my eldest brother, and although there's a big age gap, 17 years, it's not a kind of father-son type of age gap, so I thought I wanted to go it alone, which I did in 1988, and bought some land, which just happened to have a dilapidated Sussex barn on it. I got permission to convert this, and as I couldn't afford to pay somebody else to do it, gave up work and converted the barn. That took 15 months, and we moved in, myself and my family moved in Christmas 1990. The plan had always been to revert back to farming, but nothing presented itself in the meantime. However, what did present itself was the opportunity to convert another Sussex barn for a neighbouring farmer, and this led to 15 years or so of building, initially concentrating on barn conversions and period property, but leading into extensions, new build and some spec builds. I haven't got many pictures of that, and obviously this isn't really what we're here to talk about, but that was an example of that's actually a new building, a new extension we did, and that just shows the initial concept, which is the drawing, the sketch on the left, was my brief. From that followed the design, planning and the subsequent build, and I was actually quite pleased with the end result of that. The building company at this time was quite a serious business, employing some 25 to 30 tradesmen on some days, became something I wasn't really enjoying, and it wasn't a huge amount of fun. And now we're up to about 2005 or thereabouts, and I was offered a job through one of my building customers to manage an organic farm, and that's actually where I am now. I took the job and learned how to farm organically pretty rapidly, which wasn't as different as I actually had initially thought. A lot of the farming practices that I'd learned growing up were still applicable. I was involved in this capacity as an employee for 6 years, until my then employers decided that they'd had enough of farming and at that level, and they wanted to downsize and downsize the range of things they were doing and wind up the business as it was then. I hadn't got any money invested in the business, but I did feel I had a more valuable form of investment in the years I'd spent working there. So after some negotiation, it was agreed that I would take on the core of the farming business, the cattle, pigs, some machinery, and a base from which I could rear turkeys for a Christmas market. Essentially renting the farm on a limited basis for 5 years, and so started a major restructuring of the business, moving from purely organic to a mix of free range, but reared to organic standards but fed on conventional feed for the animals required bought-in feed. When you're buying in organic feed for things like pigs and poultry, it means the end product is really very expensive. This sort of combination seems to work really well. What remained as organic was the Sussex cattle, and these are fed exclusively on grass. They graze the pastures during the summer, and in the winter they feed on the grass that you can serve through the summer. So silage and hay. Since those early days, pig numbers have doubled, and the cattle herd has increased from around 12 cows calving that first year to 25 going to the bull this year. Likewise, turkey numbers have increased from 200 to 500. Initially, having seen firsthand how tricky it can be to market the produce through a farm shop, the carcass balance, selling all of an animal, is the hardest part. I decided to sell everything whole, i.e. pigs direct to a local butcher or market, and the beef via the OLMC to Marks and Spencer's. For that we had to be audited and approved directly by them to do this. the best laid plans and all that. As time went by, I had repeated requests to supply sausages and bacon to a couple of customers left over from the old days. Eventually I succumbed to the flattery and began some very small scale production. And this is where I was when, out of the blue, late autumn 13, I received a phone call from a chap called Jack with big ideas and talk of a new kind of supermarket in Brighton. Something that's a bit different. The way you do it is different. As an artisan producer, it's not unusual to get such phone calls from people very enthusiastic and excited about their amazing ideas and how they're going to order vast quantities of my produce for years to come. After a few phone calls and a visit to Brighton to see if this place actually existed and to drop off some samples, I delivered the first order just before Christmas, December 2013, in time for the first day of opening. From that initial delivery, the orders and the range of produce grew almost weekly, and Hisby has not only become a major customer in themselves, but they provided valuable introductions to at least 3 trade customers. So that initial phone call from Jack was a very important one. So I'm going to touch now on sort of how we farm. It is all about the animals. Contented, I use the word contented as a word happy, that a lot of people use in my mind conjures up kind of the wrong image. So I feel contented animals are a pleasure to keep. There's some actual fairly happy animals, but I prefer, as I say, to talk about them as contented. We try to give them, each and every one, the freedom to exercise their natural instincts as each animal wants. For example, a sow in the summer will often build a nest from twigs, grass, trees, weeds, hay, straw, anything that can find that comes to hand or snout. They are very proud of their nests and would titivate at length until the time comes to farrow, using the nest in preference to the nice pig arks that we provide. Pigs are built to be outside. Their snouts are pure digging machines, and they can create a wallow big enough to submerge themselves in a few hours. Likewise, the cattle. Likewise, the cattle. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing a herd of cattle grazing on lush pasture on a sunny summer's day. Sorry, that's the wallow. That's them digging their wallow. On a summer's day. And there again, there's some pigs. They just have to cope with it. They're outside. It really is free range. So they have to make do, and it doesn't seem to bother them in the slightest, as long as they've got a nice warm bed in their house. It's dry, plenty of hay. They just come out for feed, have a little play around in the snow, and then go back in again, just like kids really. Here we are, Sussex cattle. So there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a herd of Sussex cattle grazing on lush pastures on a sunny summer's day. I mention Sussex cattle at this point as I'm a firm believer that if there's a local breed, you should use it. They have to be better suited and adapted to local conditions and topography. One of the big surprises to me farming in this way are the turkeys and how they love to be outside. They graze on the pasture, run around at very high speed, and attempt and sometimes succeed in flying, and regularly escape over the fences. And here you can see an example of the turkeys and the cattle in the same field. So it is a very mixed farm, and I believe that's another important feature. Monoculture is not a natural way to be. And there's another picture of turkeys. Sort of, they do make very good use of their freedom as such. So why do we farm this way? In a way, simply put, it is how it should be. It's regrettable that so many animals, not only in this country but worldwide, are denied the freedoms I've just touched upon. Many, especially pigs and poultry, never see the light of day, never feel the earth under their feet, and never smell the countryside. They live in totally environmentally controlled housing. Artificial lights dictate the length of their day, and a constant temperature is designed to maximise conversion rates and growth and minimise costs. It's an unfortunate characteristic of pigs and poultry that they breed at any time of the year and respond very positively to these environments. Sheep and cattle are less amenable in this respect, so they're much less likely to be intensively farmed to this degree. Although even within these species the trend is inexorably towards more efficient production. These production methods do provide cheap food, but I would argue that there's always a hidden cost involved that is often hidden. The 3 chicken for £10 seems unbelievably good value, but only if you don't put a value on the hidden cost of that production, which has to be the quality of life for the 4 chicken. So I'll go now into a little bit about each species and just explain how their life on the farm exists. So turkeys arrive on the farm at day old. They're hatched overnight and they get delivered to the farm the next day. They're brooded under gas heaters. And there's you can just see that there. Getting the right heat is critical. They're very vulnerable to temperature changes in the first 7 days. Does anybody know what the incubation period of a turkey egg is? Any guesses? Wild guesses? Dave? It's 28 days. So, they are hardened off over about 3 to 4 weeks, dependent on ambient temperature. Ad-lib feed and fresh, clean water is made available at all times. And they're introduced to the big wide world from about 6 weeks. And this is them out in their sheds. They do grow really, really quickly. Daily routine is let out of their house. They're in a house that we move around the farm, and they're fed and bedded up first thing and then shut in at the end of the day. This is another example of another shot of the house and their paddock. Beginning of December, 26, 27 weeks old, they will finish growing after about 16 weeks. So for the last 10 weeks, all they will have been doing is maturing and laying down fat, and we all know that flavour is in the fat. We kill them on the farm. I have a licence, and they're plucked, cooled, and then hung for 10 days to improve flavour, texture and tenderness. We then eviscerate, wrap in greaseproof paper, add a recipe leaflet, and put in a nice box with the weight, and if we have a name, the name on it. The food miles of this is virtually is not measured in miles, it's more likely measured in yards. This year we entered a sort of local show over at Ashford, and we were lucky enough to get the champion turkey. So I'll move on. Oh, and that's the finished product. So if you follow the recipe leaflet, that's what you should end up with. So the cattle, going back to the Sussex cattle, so local breed, gestation period, Dave?
60 days?
No, not bad. Anybody else? Anybody else? No?
5 months.
More? Up a bit. Think of humans.
9 months.
9 months, thank you. And so they take, so you've got a 9-month gestation period, and the Sussex cattle will, basically they're slow growing animals, so we wouldn't be looking, they won't be mature for at least 2 years, probably 2.5 years, between 24 and 30 months. So that means that from conception, putting the bull in, putting the bull in with the cows, it's about 3 years to have something to sell. So it's a very, very long-term business. A lot can happen to 3 years in the animal. To the market, to my markets, to the farming cattle, especially you know, it's sort of, you have to do it. All of this you do it for the love rather than the business itself. And there's another shot of they're sort of just, about 25-month-old cattle there. They're born on the farm, sometimes with assistance. Oh no, pigs. Sometimes with assistance, and they have the navel treated with iodine. A few days later, if all okay, they're tagged with a unique ear tag passport, and if they're males, they're castrated, and a couple of weeks later they're dehorned if required. That is an ear tag. That's an ear tag. It's got a unique number that applies just to that animal, and it's got my herb mark on it as well. So anybody will know that that animal will have been bred by me, and that is its unique number. And once that's entered onto there's a national database, and so in theory every bovine animal in the country, its whereabouts and its history is known. You know, basically, you know, it can't. It's because of the BSE and sort of all the things that people were doing wrong. So it's the right thing to do to know that, you know, where every animal is effectively. This is going to make the boys in the audience squirm a bit. This is what we use to castrate the young males. So this is a rubber elastic ring. It's done at a very early age, and we use this applicator to put over the required area and then release it, and that then sort of stops the blood supply, and after a few weeks the offending articles drop off. And the dehorning likewise is done at a very early age and with local anaesthetic. They stay with their mums for about 9 to 10 months when they're weaned, and the mother's cow's left to have another calf about a year after the first one. They then stay in the year group, raising throughout the summer and the cattle yards during the worst winter months. 24 to 30 months old, they will have reached a good size and will be sent to slaughter, which is literally just 3 miles down the road. Again, the food miles of this is very minimal. They are then hung for a minimum of 2 weeks at the abattoir and delivered to my butcher for cutting into primals, which is the main cuts. We then cut into steaks, joints, etc. from there and packed ready for retail sales in outlets such as Hisby. So these are the pigs. They're all rare breed crossed sows, and they're bred with a commercial boar. And this is literally almost hours old, this particular litter. What's the gestation period of a pig?
5 months.
Less. Anybody else? 4? Less? Well, actually 4 is pretty good. It is actually 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. It's my favourite gestation period. They will take approximately 6 months to mature. And there they are, after a few days. They're quite unique little creatures. A baby human, or a baby cow, or a baby sheep, a lamb, is they're really quite different to the adult. There's quite a marked difference. Pigs just come out ready finished, but in a really small form. They're quite unique creatures. But again, because they take about 6 months to finish, it's still about a year from conception to having anything to sell. So again, even those are quite a long-term business. They really are free range. On Saturday afternoon, I went to do my usual feeding round and was greeted at the gate by 18 wayward weaners that were just complete. They basically turfed their trough over onto the wire, onto the electric fence, which is supposed to keep them in. They all escaped. One of them then took the actual. It seems unbelievable. They actually disconnected the battery, which powers the fence. And then, not only that, they went to another pen with another battery and charger, and they disconnected that one as well. So I do wonder about their intentions at times. After about 20 weeks, the first ones will be ready for slaughter and taken just down the road, which again, very, very low food miles. They're not hunged but delivered straight to the butcher. Butcher cuts to order, and that's the one just showing off. Oh, this is the boar, by the way. He likes his water straight up. And the butcher cuts to order and makes sausages for our further cutting, curing and packing for sale. And David's been waving at me. And these are basically just the only ingredients. I don't know if you want to hand them round, but these are all we put into our sausages. If you have so you get 5, you can take top off by all means. You get, with 5 kilos of meat, this is all that goes into them. That was, we did actually win a champion pig for the 3rd year running as well at the local show. And that's pretty well it, actually. Yeah. So there you are. Thank you very much for listening.